Okay, we'll try to proceed today. We've got STEM Fest going on, so I think a lot of students are over at STEM Fest. I know I was just talking to one at Career Services this morning who was headed over there. We're gonna have a mini discussion here for this stuff. We'll go over the discussion topics. Remember, uh, with the QQSP, you have to, you want to post your initial question, quotation, and student prompt there, and then you want to have two or more discussion interactions here. And that can include talking in class, replying to a post in Brightspace, or putting a comment in this discussion area. This is the new discussion topics. I've just grabbed stuff that you posted to Brightspace and kind of summarized them here in one spot so we can discuss it in class here. Because of attendance day, we'll just say everyone here today will fulfill their 2 posts. That makes sense. So the dedicated students here will be done with the discussions. We'll have a discussion, but we can mark that off here. So let's just do that, and then we'll try to work through, give you time to look at the worksheet, pair you up or set you in teams. I think, well, mainly asynchronous teams it looks like, but okay, I'm going to switch back to here and we'll have a short discussion. See how that goes here. Wow. See if there's anything here that we want to discuss more. The first couple of things are kind of general topics. I kind of like this first question. Someone is asking about what are the rules in different languages for identifiers like variable names. Are some specific characters allowed or not allowed in certain programming languages? And wondering there. So, what if you use any strange characters like underlines or non-English characters when you write variable names? Have you run into problems where you haven't been able to use that exclamation point or something like that?
I just supposed to use a camel case.
Camel case, yeah. This person was looking and actually their prompt on this and found out that JavaScript allows for lots of different characters in their identifier names. Almost any Unicode character can be in that there. Have you ever seen code written by a team in another language, like a French or an Arabic or an India team? So it's interesting to see that sometimes because the reserved words have to be in English, certainly. So like if, the while, that's English. It has to be. But the variable names, function names, all that, those sorts of things can be often in any language. And again, some of these languages only allow for like the English alphabet, the ASCII alphabet, but some of them, like JavaScript, will allow for basically any character set. So you can have variable names, function names, class names in Arabic or any language, any sort of alphabet you want out there. So it's sometimes interesting to look and work on projects where where the main language of the project and the developers is not in English, there. I would say that's a little rarer because again, a lot of projects, if there are projects, they'll still have like, it'll be a mixed team. You know, like we talked last semester, we talked to a number of software developers who were on mixed teams, where, you know, they were working with developers in the US and then developers in China or India or something like that, or even like Russia or something. And in those sorts of teams, since it's still mixed, English is still often the, you know, a common denominator or the default language of programming there. But again, I've seen some really cool, I mean, interesting, and I struggle sometimes with that, understand it because again, all the variable names, all the function names are in a different language. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's interesting to see that, and how that works. So.
Yeah, I didn't know if you use like emojis on them.
Oh yeah, I think you can use emojis in in JavaScript, can't you?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just looking at those.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that becomes more common going forward or not. So the question, the third question here I thought was good. Yeah, they were talking about scope as far as blocks and function and global or static scope there. And then they asked, well, what happens when you define a class and you have public variables in that class? How do you list those variables? Are those, would you say, block or function or global scope? What are public variables in another class? Hey, Jeffrey. Remind me to mark you down as here, so. Okay, so yeah, how would you talk about, what would you think about public variables in another class? Well, how would you kind of classify their scope? Are they like block level scope? Are they're not static, right? Because they have to, or global because they're instantiated with that class there. But I think that actually is a different category than we have, than we have here, in that they're kind of shared maybe variables or something like that, where a class or public variables again, where a class will make them available outside their own scope. Will kind of broadcast them out there for this.
Are they available for anything that like inherits from that class?
Well, again, remember there's public and protected, right? And so if they're protected, it's anything that inherits from that class. If it's public, anyone can access those variables. Right? Yeah. Let's jump down to specific types. One question I have that someone asked, I don't even know the answer to this, is that is there a better performance advantage to using primitive types rather than object types? They're talking about Java and Python, but I was just thinking within Python. So like there's int with a lowercase int I, and then integer with like a uppercase, and one is a wrapper class and one is a primitive class. And a lot of them are double, like double is the same way. And when we first teach programming, we teach you to use the primitive type. But then I generally suggest students move to the wrapper types, the uppercase types. But there must be a little bit of a performance hit or a memory hit when you switch to those more advanced types. They have a little more structure built into them. They're not, they have to be converted into the primitive type. So is there a performance advantage for using primitive types? Which one should you use? I don't know. It's a good question. So, programmed outside, for a business or something like that in Java? I was just wondering what, if a company has recommendations for what to use. So that'll be interesting to see if you, if you program Java, do they have a recommendation? And then someone asked, what's the benefit of using enum types? And I think the main benefit is it makes your code look cool and hard to understand and easy to understand at the same time. I know some programmers, and I haven't done that much programming in the field, but a couple times I know some people just love enum types and they use them all the time, and every time they can, they use an enum type because they're so cool and it makes it so understandable. But I always get confused with the enum types because I'm always looking at these values and where's this thing defined at? What is this there? And so when I program, I don't use enum types very much generally, but I know some people just love them. I actually think it's more of a personal preference. I don't know if there's that much. Do you use enum types? Have you used enum types? See them? Yeah. You see them in some places, like, I think sometimes they're useful for like, make the code more understandable, like the days of the week, so you can talk about Tuesday or Wednesday, or colors, if you have a set group of colors you're using in some sort of development or something like that. So I've seen them used well, but I've also seen them overused there. So it depends, I think. Yeah, I have circle. So therefore, we just said anyone who's coming here today and not at STEM Fest gets full credit for the discussions. Okay, so I marked you off. Okay. Okay. Well, that section is the whole static versus dynamic types, Java versus JavaScript sort of stuff, or Python there. What's your preference? And that's a lot, what fields or areas I would rather use one or the other. What are the, some of the limitations of this sort of stuff. So what is your preference? Do you like declaring variables and types, or would you like when the computer just infers the type for this? Kind of hard because you probably were first taught Java. It's interesting, because some people are first taught Python is really common these days. And then you move into Java and you learn how to be more type specific. So what do you prefer?
Like the variables helps like keep things organized, like my
Yeah. I was raised that's a my first, I programmed for so many years that way. I just cannot not do it that way. But yeah. Yes, and that's not heard as again, it's kind of what you learned first. You started doing this. You started just learning variables and not having to worry about what types they are. And then it's just easier for you to do it that way. If that makes sense. And that's what I see a lot is, I don't know if there's a great argument for one way or the other. I think, although, at least for a lot of projects that there are times for that. I think you can't, the reason we developed TypeScript over JavaScript is that JavaScript, you can get into some errors and some problems where you don't, with dynamic variable types over time, it can sometimes do what you want, or, you can't just error check as much as you want there. But so I can see why with bigger projects, you might want to switch from JavaScript to TypeScript there. But even within TypeScript, you can still use, I think what's the keyword, any, you can still kind of make generic variables. And I think that's a nice option for that. I wouldn't be surprised if we switched our programming one to something like Python or something, or JavaScript. That's not type specific at some point here. I know a number of, when we get together when computer professors get together, this is a common topic is how do you teach programming and what languages you use and what's important for that. So, memory management. So there was a question, what is manual memory management? Why do languages like Java and Python avoid it? Or what situations would stack-based storage be preferable to heap-based storage there? And that kind of comes on to the question of when is using C or C++. So C and C++ are basically the same language in some ways. C++ is just added objects. You can't create classes in C there. You can create what are called like structures, a simpler version of it, but you really can't have inheritance or classes. And so C++ is just C with classes added, but a lot of the underlying stuff is just there, still there. So in those things, you can do heap-based storage. You allocate and manage your low-level memory how you want. And the question is, why would you ever want to do that there? And tell you, I don't know. I mean, you've got to think of cases where you want to do something very fast, you want to optimize either space, like you're in an embedded device of some sort, and you don't have very much memory, whatever, and you want to be very careful with your memory management, or you want to be very fast there. So maybe, again, where you see this is like game engines or graphics or stuff like that, where you want to optimize, you want to be able to program it and optimize it so that it is either very fast or you're very limited in hardware, like again on an embedded device or something like that. Right? I think those are probably the main. Do you know of any? Have you heard of any other reasons why some place would program in C rather than like Java or Python or something like that? Again, certainly the game engines and that because of the speed and graphics demands there, and certainly with embedded, that's the two places I see them a lot. And again, a lot of it is just you don't want to bring in a lot of libraries, and you have limited space, and so you want to implement it your own way. Maybe some optimization that's specific to your data set. So, like maybe you like maybe you're doing some sort of hash map or a map where again you're taking some keys and looking them up in a big table or something like that, and you're mapping those. Well, the generic ones are pretty generic, and you can map to say applications, and that there's some structure built into them that maybe in your specific example you don't need to worry about. Maybe your keys are actually some numeric value, and you can just somehow do some simple math to convert that key value into a memory location exactly, and do like a manual almost hash map of that for you. And your data structure, I just have these 20,000 values, and each one, here's the key and here's where it is in memory, and I can just simply do a quick math, calculation from the key value to figure out where it is in memory. And I know everyone is then going to be 5 bytes long. I can read those 5 bytes and interpret it this way. The first 3 bytes are this, and then there's a couple bits of this. And you can program that all in and you can create your own kind of custom lookup table or something like that. That's gonna be very fast for this. So there might be places where you might want to use that. So, and again, the problem is that you can get yourself in trouble. You can, it's very easy to make errors in this where you are writing to memory that you can't access, you're not supposed to access there. I remember when I was an undergrad, we didn't have individual computers. We had one big shared computer and we each had a terminal in it. So like when I go to the library, there'd be like a room like this, but everyone was at a terminal connected up to the mainframe there. But I learned quickly, when I was learning to program by mistake, and then I thought this was cool. I could just write a for loop that would print off all of the mainframe's memory, not just my chunk of memory, because I was working in C. So I could print off the entire memory. So I could print off and I could see what everyone was working on in the whole room. And again, we didn't have there was no memory controls, there was supposedly security, but again, when you go to the low level, you could get around all that. And that means you could get yourself. So I could overwrite anyone if I wanted to. I could have override anyone's work that they were working on, and that's dangerous stuff. So again, when you get into this low level stuff, and so the reason why we often don't do this was, that's the danger zone when you allow people to do stuff like that. They can overwrite your code. You can be storing something in a variable, and you can actually overwrite your code or something like that. Overwrite someone else's code. You have to be very careful. It's just really hard to find those errors. I would like to applaud whoever decided to do their web. Chris's assignment as part of this one and asking about toaster notifications and Angular projects. I thought that was very, very creative in doing that as part of this class. So I put that as I was just in there. I didn't quite get it, but it was a good attempt to bring in that stuff here. So. All right. Teams, do you want to pair up and work on the worksheet for this today? Or you want to just leave and go to STEM test? No. So so what do we have as far as the okay. I am kind of I think I'm getting caught up on grading here, so I will try to do this. I know I was making some notes and I was missing some grading for the first 3 weeks there. So if I didn't give you credit for a discussion and you lost points with it, let me know, because I thought I was taking better notes than I was there. So I'm going to make sure I do that grading more closer to when we have these discussions here. So, okay. What do you have to do this week? So again, the QQSP, you've posted your initial ones. If you're in class, you're good for the rest of it. Otherwise, if you're not in class, you need to post a comment to this worksheet or just do a reply to, and you need to do 2 or more replies or interactions on the discussion group or in this discussion. So we're going to do this worksheet now, and then the assignment is just a language deep dive. I'm going to let you pick out a language of your choice and do a deep dive into it as far as what types do they allow and that sort of stuff. I originally was going to forbid you from doing a language like Java, but then I thought some of you might want to do that. Although it's the main goal of this is that you dive into some other language that you maybe just know a little bit or even don't know at all. So, you've heard of Ruby, but you don't want to dive into that, or Swift or some other language. That's kind of my idea. And then again, with AI, you can get that information now relatively quickly, I think, for this stuff. So that's the assignment. So let's go into the worksheet here. And again, this is where we are getting much more with programming languages and trying out some programs here. So again, the idea is that you will have some programs here and you can try them out and describe them. Remember, there's these IDEs. So if I want to try out some JavaScript, I can just open up the JavaScript editor. I should be able to just take this JavaScript example here, copy it, and paste it into the editor here and execute it. The one I'm still running in trouble is the TypeScript one. The TypeScript one still doesn't seem to be working. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So if anyone can figures out the TypeScript one, let me know. But that's the one that I still don't think is working in this part. Okay. Or you want to break into groups? You want to select your own pairs to work with today? Or you want to do random? Okay, we're going to do random then. Or choice. You don't get a choice. All right, pair up. So no, there's been some problems with TypeScript here. So I updated the worksheet with some new links to playcode.io. They have a JavaScript and a TypeScript playground kind of where you can do that. So you can paste your code in there in either TypeScript or JavaScript here. And then you can actually, in TypeScript, you can run it. It'll show it down at the console, but then you can also see the errors that TypeScript will generate, which is helpful. So feel free to reopen the worksheet and grab these two ones, if that helps you. Up for just a sec. When you get down to part 3, we talk about scope rules, and again, there's this idea of block scope versus function scope. And so if you declare a variable inside like an if block, can you access it outside that if block? And I'll just note that AI gets this wrong a lot here. So Java certainly has block scope stuff. So if you declare a variable inside a block, you can't access it outside that block, outside the brackets. But pay attention to Python and JavaScript. Often when you ask AI, AI will say they have block scope for things, but in reality, that might not be true. So that's why I want you to be testing that stuff out here in part 3. So just watch. I noticed AI get it wrong a fair amount. One more thing, Federated Insurance is going to be here this afternoon at 4 o'clock, trying to recruit again. They're trying to hire. They've got 6 spots open for full-time people starting this in June. So seniors, if you're still looking for a job, Otherwise, they're looking for, they have a college fair coming up in April, so like, second, third year students could go to that. And work towards an internship, there in the future, not this summer, but next summer, so. Okay. How'd it go today? Pretty straightforward? I try not to make the worksheet too long. I think it was, seemed appropriate size, although you're done a little early, but you're fast.